So I had an interesting thought the other day. On my recent video where I talked about Tekken 8's microtransactions, somebody in the comments said that they weren't pay to win, so it was okay. Which is wrong, by the way, because by that logic, the costumes could cost $100 and it would be okay because they're not pay to win. So that's completely wrong. But it got me thinking, could DLC characters be considered pay to win? Like, what if a DLC character comes out and they're just so top tier that not buying them would be a huge disadvantage to the people playing? And no one ever really talks about it that much, at least not in fighting games. We talk about pay to win in mobile games and these other games all the time. I've even heard people talk about pay to win in Pokemon, which, yes, that is true. These days, Pokemon is pay to win. You don't get the DLC, you don't get certain legendaries or certain Pokemon and stuff, so yes, it is pay to win. People have done some great videos talking about that, but no one ever talks about DLC characters in fighting games. I wonder why. But anyway, let's talk about it a little bit. I just find this whole thing very interesting. I'm not saying I have an answer, but let's talk about it. So one of the examples that came to mind right away was Bayonetta in Smash 4. Bayonetta was insanely overpowered. She was winning tournaments left, right, and center, and if you weren't using Bayonetta, you had to have a pocket Bayonetta because the only way to beat another Bayonetta was with Bayonetta. She was that overpowered. And she was DLC. So wouldn't that kind of be pay to win if a character is just that good that everyone had to use her? Like, I remember watching tournaments from that era, and the final two was always Bayonetta versus Bayonetta, even at EVO. It was insane. And people always like to say, oh, well, it's not the character, it's the person behind it. As much as we like to think that, we all know that's not true. Like, I've seen a lot of matches where one person was clearly better than the other, but the other person won because they were using a character that was just so overpowered. Like, it's not always about skill. Yes, if you're insanely better than your opponent, it doesn't matter what they use. But if you're on similar ground, it really does come down to the character. So, yeah, as much as we like to think it's the person, not the character, that's not always the case. It certainly wasn't the case in Bayonetta's case. She was just that overpowered. So I would say that was definitely an instance of pay to win. Yet, I don't remember anybody saying that. People are just saying, oh, she's just overpowered and should be banned. Even in the newer games like Smash Ultimate, where she was toned down, we have characters like Minecraft Steve and Kazuya who are considered ban-worthy because of how overpowered they are. So it's still happening to this day. It's not like that was a one-time thing. And this happens in a lot of fighting games. New DLC characters come out and they're really powerful. Remember when Leroy Smith in Tekken 7 was insanely powerful? And he was DLC as well. So, yeah, you could say that was pay to win. Of course, he eventually got patched, but he was still really good. And that's the other thing. I think that's another reason why people don't like to call pay to win right away, is because fighting games tend to get patched more than other games, except for Smash, apparently. But yeah, patching is usually what happens, so people don't want to call it out right away because, like, oh, maybe they'll get patched, but not always. You never know. And also, a lot of people are like, I don't know, I guess people just don't look at fighting games the same way. Like, only recently did people start actually looking at Pokemon as a pay-to-win thing, because it's like, oh, well, I guess free-to-play games are just way more infamous for this kind of thing because they have to make their money somehow. But when you already pay for a game, people don't expect that kind of stuff, even though nowadays it's becoming way more common for having extra monetization, as I've talked about many times. But I think we should really start thinking about that because, like I said, only recently people have started to realize with Pokemon and its DLC and everything, it's like, yeah, this is actually pay to win. If you play competitively, you are at a disadvantage if you do not get the DLC because you're missing out on a lot of Pokemon. Same with fighting games. You don't have all the characters, you're at a disadvantage because not only could you possibly not have a really strong character, you don't know how to play against said characters. That's the other thing about competitive. People don't think about, like, oh, if you don't have the character, not only can you not use it, you can't fight against it, go into training mode and see what they're capable of and know how to defend against it. So you're already at a huge disadvantage. Not only do you not have it, but you don't know how to fight it. And the funny thing is, some games, not all, will actually have you fight DLC characters in the game, even if you don't have them. Like, I remember, I think it was one of the Dead or Alive games that actually had you fight the DLC characters, even if you didn't own them, like in arcade mode and all that stuff. And I thought that was really annoying because it's like, not only are you teasing me because I don't have the character, but I don't know how to fight against this character. You know, it's kind of annoying. Like I said, it doesn't happen in a lot of games, but it does happen on occasion. Games will use whatever tactics they can to sell you stuff. And Tekken 8 is no different, as we saw with the microtransactions and stuff. But what do you guys think? Do you think DLC characters, in some cases at least, could be considered pay to win? I don't know. Like I said, I don't have an answer. I think in some cases, like Bayonetta, like definitely for sure. If you're playing competitive Smash, you had to get Bayonetta back with Smash 4 and stuff. But these days, is there any other examples you can think of? If so, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.